For scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
Wow.
It's terrifying, he says. It's your fault. It's people's fault. And it's here, and it's coming faster than we thought. No mention of what the sun's doing, because that probably doesn't affect our climate. It's people. And it really, no matter what you think of the climate conversation, that clip right there, the way fear is being used in that clip should really raise alarm bells for people, especially after what we've just been through. And on the flip side, if you look in the past, you can see that there was something coming, and it's here now. If you watched the news in 1978, you would have seen it, and it looked like this.
I think that if we had to go through a real bad winter, just like we just went through, I think we'd have to think about moving someplace else.
Move where? The brutal buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. At weather stations in the far north, temperatures have been dropping for 30 years. Seacoasts long free of summer ice are now blocked year-round. According to some climatologists, within a lifetime, we might be living in the next ice age.
Awesome. That is totally awesome. I mean, it just, same language, just different side of the temperature scale. The world's coming to an end. The last 30 years has been freezing. Now the last 50 years has been hot. Oh my God.
Right. It may happen in our lifetime, probably not that guy's lifetime.
It looks like, you know, it looks like we clearly overachieved in like stopping the freezing of the earth. Now we are gone, you know, gone a whole other direction. That's
right.
So
and so we're being told we're in the middle of record heat waves, global boiling. But we look at this chart here, and this is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. This is the annual heat wave index in the United States. These are the days, periods lasting at least 4 days with heat waves, average temperatures higher than normal, starting back at the late 1800s. And you can see here, United States, 2020 and beyond, we're not really doing much compared. I mean, maybe in 1930s, you could make argument, but not much going on here. And so what I'm talking about in this segment is not to go into to battle the science.
It reminds me of what my dad used to always say: "Why let a fact get in the way of a good story?"
Right.
You know, I mean, let's just keep the facts off the table. We're boiling here, and you see it in the news like crazy right now.
Right, and so the reason we started out with really talking about the COVID response and to show how it's very similar to this response is you have two camps. The one camp is saying fear, fear, fear. It's happening. It's coming. It's your fault. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And the leaders need to act now. We need to rush. And remember, what was the excuse during COVID? Well, they had to rush. It was a once in a century pandemic. So they made some mistakes. So again, we have the rush right off the beginning. But we have a lot of people who don't agree with this narrative, who don't agree with what's being told. And this was a declaration, just like the Great Barrington Declaration early on. This is the World Climate Declaration. And they say right up front, there is no climate emergency. That's on the front page. And this has been signed by over 1,500 researchers, scientists, and they have a handful of statements right in there. And it says this: natural as well as anthropogenic factors cause warming. Warming is far slower than predicted. Climate policy relies on inadequate models. CO2, remember that carbon says it's bad for everybody. CO2 is plant food, the basis of all life on Earth. Global warming has not increased natural disasters, and climate policy must respect scientific and economic realities. And this is another conversation we're having, is the canceling of experts. They don't get to speak. Only certain anointed experts get to speak. And this is what's happening here. We have a Nobel Prize winner in physics who just had his speech canceled. Here's the headline here: Nobel Prize winner who doesn't believe climate crisis has speech canceled. This is Dr. John Clauser, Nobel Prize winner in physics. Fortunately, he did have a speech scheduled in Korea, and he talked about misinformation and disinformation in science, and he ended his speech like this. Take a look.
All right.
Beware. If you're doing good science, it may lead you into politically incorrect areas. If you're a good scientist, you will follow them. I have several I won't have time to discuss, but they are, I can confidently say, there is no real climate crisis, and that climate change does not cause extreme weather events. Thank you.
I mean, I always have to state this, that this is always a difficult topic for me, because I do want clean air, I want clean water, I want a clean food supply for my kids. I believe we can treat the land around us, our rivers, better. I want to be able to go fishing with my son and actually eat the fish and not worry that it's contaminated because of some factory or pollution that's out there. And I think there are many of us in that space, and I think some people go, well, you know what, though, the climate thing is being overhyped. At least it's making people make some of the changes, like, you know, recycling or doing things that they should do. But it's not okay. It's not okay that we are using fear. It's not okay that we're making human beings believe that they're a disease on this planet, that humans are the problem. It just undermines everything that's beautiful about humanity. And frankly, when you're dark and destitute and hate yourself, that's no space to make the world a better place. That will not lead to the beauty that that true environmentalists, I think, should be dreaming of. There's a better way, and one that actually deals with facts and science.
And the politicians are moving on this. No matter what people think, the Biden administration has banned light bulbs. So here's the headline on that: incandescent light bulbs are now banned in the U.S., and that's a regulatory movement. But they're also going after all portable gas-powered generators. So another one, they're putting forth a rule. They're trying to ban. The wording is nearly all portable gas-powered generators. So think about what that would do in an actual crisis like Hurricane Katrina or a natural disaster. People rely on these things. They're basically life-giving. Does everyone, so they're going to switch over to solar power generators and they'll be able to afford those? I don't think so. This seems like a reckless thing. So on the back of the most recent climate boiling fear, Biden has come forward and he has announced new measures to protect Americans from extreme heat. But a lot of people are saying he doesn't go far enough. And this is what the Guardian op-ed actually said. It says Joe Biden, now the drums are beating for something here, so everyone really needs to listen. Joe Biden must declare a climate emergency, and he must do so now. Climate emergency. We just got done with emergency. So what does that sound like? And it's not just people trying to get him to do it. We have members of Congress. This is a bill in Congress right now. It's called the Climate Emergencies Act, HR 794. And this is to require the president to declare a national climate emergency under the National Emergencies Act. So this is also what's going through here. And if you're looking at this from a public health standpoint, they're trying to merge this. So think about this. Climate emergency happens. We're under emergency. The Constitution's suspended. It gives them free rein to censor again, the conversations. If it's a hot day, climate emergency. If it's a cold day, that's climate emergency. But what about health? This is the Lancet during the COVID pandemic. And they're not talking about COVID-19. They're saying this: mitigating climate change must be a priority for public health. So now diseases can fall under climate change. So they don't have to worry about declaring another pandemic for Zika or Ebola or whatever is going to come down the line. If this climate emergency gets triggered by Biden or whoever else, health just wrapped right in that vortex. It just sucks down that tunnel, all health situations. Remember, last week we told you about the permanent, those were the words in the White House press release, the Permanent Pandemic Preparedness and Response Office. This is in the executive branch of the White House, and they are going to coordinate the administration's domestic response to public health threats that have pandemic potential or may cause significant disruption and strengthen domestic pandemic preparedness. And this dovetails exactly. We reported also on the UN treaty. This is in conversations now. They have their first draft out. It's called the Zero Draft. And this is the political declaration, they're calling it, of the UN General Assembly. And so in there, they actually have a heading called global governance. That used to be a conspiracy theory, that term. Now it's in this draft. Strengthen international collaboration and coordination for pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response at the highest political level to accelerate efforts to ensure international, national, regional, and local readiness for future pandemics and health emergencies. So if you think the climate is not going to be a conversation in this treaty, which from what I understand is going to be codified in September. This is going to be something they're trying to get done by September. The White House has its office. So we really have to watch this climate prep, the fear, the conversations in these headlines about this push for a climate emergency, because no doubt that will be looped into these offices in these treaties.
We keep having this debate, folks. I mean, just so you know, we sit with our team, and there's been some of our international groups saying they're going to attempt to do the same tracking systems and declare that the next pandemic is really the climate. And I've been on the side of our team saying they're never going to get away with that. There's just no way people are going to put up with something they can't see. Telling us that the ocean is going to be 6 inches deeper in 20 years is not going to allow you to take my car away. But I'll tell you, Jeffrey, I think I'm starting to lose this argument. I really, it's getting scary when you see this language. I mean, we're reaching a point where if you talk about, like, say, you know, I'd like to see a little better science on this climate thing, how are you proving it's mankind doing it? And does it really make a difference if we're 1 degree Celsius warmer 50 years from now or not? I need to understand that. Is that domestic terrorism? Is that it? Are they coming through the door any second now? I mean, this is where this insanity is going.
Right. And it's not even, so to your point, it may not be, they may not get the pop value, the shock value like they did for COVID and have to do something right away, but they are doing legislative moves and policy that is making it harder to sell light bulbs. So they're kind of picking away
right.
to sell gasoline vehicles. So one by one, they pick away the current infrastructure that we know we're used to that is sustaining us. And as we reported before, what's being replaced is questionable. What is being moved into that position?
Yeah, absolutely outrageous.